let me just take this camera that I have and my equipment that I already have and start shooting small vignettes, showing small sketches because people doing it anyways. You don't need a producer or a studio to say yes to do what you want to do. I can move right now by myself. And it took me a while to get to this point. It's a blessing that people do like what I do and they do support. So, like I said, it's way more gratifying than making someone else's dream come true. And now I'm making my own, so.
All right, today we got the one and only Bigg Jah. He's a comedian, an actor, a filmmaker himself. Jah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, bro. Appreciate that. Appreciate it for sure.
Hey, I've always been a big fan of you, how you've built up your platform, not just on social media, but through touring and putting everything out there. And one of the things that stuck out to me is your brand. You've referred to yourself as putting out hood good comedy. Can you talk
Hood
more
good
about
comedy,
that
bro.
and what that means?
Yeah, man. Hood good comedy, bro. It's just I'm from the hood, bro. So hood good means good things come out of the hood, and I'm one of them. So like, it's just sometimes you being from the hood or growing up in that environment is tough. It's tough. Humble beginnings, tough times, things that a lot of people wouldn't want to go through. But if you're from here and you grew up this way, and you end up you turn out good, you turn out okay. I love my upbringing. I love even the hard times. So it's almost like making lemonade out of lemons. You know what I'm saying? So it's hood good comedy. A lot of times, the stuff I like to talk about or display on camera are things that if you're from the hood, you can relate to. You don't even have to be from the hood to relate to it, but for sure, if you're from the hood, you can relate to it. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what it's. I make it for everybody, but I make it for specifically for folks from the hood.
And I think what helps you as well is that, of course, there's a lot of Black content that is out there now with on Netflix and all these other streaming services, but you're able to tell stories and talk about things that aren't going to get covered in those spaces. And I think that just shows that even though people may think that there's this abundance of content that's everywhere, no, you're telling stories through your comedy and through your sketches that are not going to get told elsewhere. So you have a good
Mhm.
niche for yourself there.
Yeah, thank you, bro. It took me a minute to find it. Well, it took me a minute to do it consistently because I've always wanted to do this type of stuff, this type of content. Growing up watching Martin, Jamie Foxx show or The Wood, Don't Be a Menace, Menace to Society, all those different shows and movies, Harlem Nights, Eddie Murphy, like Boomerang. Those films definitely shaped my influenced me into doing what I do now. And so I feel like you watch Friday, that Friday show, the movie Friday is specifically for the hood. Anybody can like it. Anybody can find value in it and find humor in it. But for sure, the hood is going to love it because it's exactly where we come from. It tells the story. It tells our story. When I had the opportunity to do that, I wanted to do the same thing.
Yeah, and those movies you mentioned and the TV shows too, they all hit this era that I feel like a lot of us grew up with and we saw on TV, right? The 90s had such a renaissance for not just Black entertainment, but comedy too. I mean, thinking about even you mentioning The Wood, a lot of people may not think about that as a traditional comedy, but it's a coming of age story. Everyone remembers what it's like, going to prom or going through any of those experiences.
100% relatable. 100% for me, for sure. 100% relatable. And it's funny because I remember going through almost every single thing in that movie I experienced as a kid growing up. So yeah, that's why The Wood is a classic for me. I would love to create something like that for myself, for the people, another version of the hood, good stories and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, because now we're in this space where they're starting to make sequels of all those, right? Because Best Man came out right around the same time as The
Right.
Wood, and
Yes,
they
man.
had Best Man Holiday. And I think I saw something they're trying to put out another one of these. I don't know.
Well, that series is dope. I think that cast is so strong they can do a part three, and as long as it's just that cast and the next thing, someone else is getting married, or someone's going through a divorce, or someone's having a baby shower, or something. I think you can do more or turn it into a TV show or something. About that cast is so dope. I think all the actors would mind doing the series. You know what I'm saying? Because they're all doing their thing, but I'm sure that'd be a great opportunity for them to really get back on camera together and consistently. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things about your career that I think is a bit more unique from maybe that generation of stars is they very much were trained to perfect how they were on screen, right? They're either going to be in TV and movies. Your career is a little different because you have to be a face on social media. You're doing your stand up, you have your specials, your movies, and then even your own touring. And I got to imagine that there's a bit of maneuvering there between each of those areas. You're not trying to get pigeonholed, but you also know that you need to have exposure in each of those. What has it been like navigating each of those areas, but knowing that they're all part of how you run and do what you do?
It was a challenge. It's still a challenge, but it's not. It's lovely. It's a beautiful struggle, man. It's crazy because I went to film school to learn how to make films, and I started pursuing comedy when I moved back to LA. I was trying to make it as a comic, still trying to make it as a comic, and get on tours, open up for different comics, become a stronger comic, get my hour going, and it was moving, but at a snail's pace. I was growing as a comic, but I just wasn't professionally growing as a comic. And then it dawned on me, like, once I started reaching back and grabbing my film information, my film degree, and working on films and sketches and just doing content like that, it took my comedy and it boosted it and it fast forwarded a lot of things. Or I wouldn't say fast forwarded. I think it brought me up to speed with my comedy. Because the biggest thing about comedy, no matter how funny you are, if you can't get butts in the seats, no one cares. Promoters don't care, and you don't care either. If you throw a show and no one comes, then you don't really have a show. You probably still got to perform, but it's just being a filmmaker and a comedian at the same time allows me to I interchange both. So if I think of a dope, funny sketch, a lot of the time I'll put that sketch on stage and talk about the sketch as a comedy bit. But most of my sketches come from comedy anyhow, come from my stage work. So I have a joke about certain things, word plays. The whole crew is stupid came from a joke on stage. The lesbian homie came from a joke on stage. So it worked in my favor. At first I was doing one or the other. Now I'm doing both.
Yeah, and I figure with that too, each of these, it gives you an opportunity to just get that quick feedback. You can then turn that into however you're going to make the actual longer form content itself, right? You putting something on
Mhm.
social media, you see the engagement. That's your feedback. You doing something on
Right.
tour, you see how the crowd reacts. You see, okay, there are differences with the crowd in this city versus that city. And then each of those things, I'm sure, gives you the confidence to be like, okay, if we're going to spend several weeks or several months putting this project together, I know this is going to hit because of what I saw from the response from people.
Right. True. Yeah. Social media is great for that. You know instantly whether or not it's funny or not, or you can find out instantly whether it's funny or not. Even if you don't find it that it's funny right away, doesn't mean it's not funny. I refuse to believe that social media is the only way to gauge whether a joke is funny or not. It's a good way because if people are laughing, that means it's funny. You know what I'm saying? If people don't laugh, that mean they're not laughing yet, in my opinion. But yeah, so I navigated through both, stand up comedy, sketch comedy, and then moving on to film, feature films eventually. That's the goal. That's the immediate goal. So yeah.
Let's talk more about that immediate goal because I feel like people could probably look at your career from the outside in and be like, oh, he's killing it independently. He's doing his thing. He has things in motion. And you've definitely hit one of those higher levels of being someone that has their platform and being able to just do bigger things with it. But you're still like, no, you want to be able to do the feature films and you want to be able to do bigger and bigger things. Can you talk about that difference there? Because I know that there was likely a stage maybe from where you may have been several years ago where the point you're at now would have been like, oh, this is where I really want to be able to get to, right? And then now it's about what it looks like for that next level, being able to do more motion pictures.
Well, like I said, I went to film school, and so my goal was to, in a perfect world, create a film, enter it into a film festival, win it, or win several film festivals, book an agent. You know what I'm saying? That, and then getting to the point where I'm in a position to create, write, and direct my own films. And that's cool. And that's the typical way, I believe, you know. But then this thing called social media came, and it took me a while to really buy into it. But that's what really changed my world and my mindset. A lot of the time, I was trying to be an employee. I was trying to be a writer for a sketch comedy network, or a writer for Fox, or a writer for ADD or something like that. So I was I was pitching myself to, you know, What the Funny back in the day, which is the Wayans brothers and whatnot. And I was sitting in offices just trying to say, oh, look at the sketch I did. Look at this. Read my scripts. And no one really took hold of it. No one really, long story short, everyone said no. They didn't say no, like, no, we're not going to mess with you, but they didn't hire me. They didn't put me in position in their company to thrive, or even to become a team player. So eventually I got to the point where I was like, I got to do this myself. And so let me start a page from scratch, put my name on it, and start making for the first sketch and the second sketch and the third and fourth, and keep going. As opposed to, because most of my sketches, especially in the first year, most of my sketches were sketches I wrote for ADD or for other platforms, and they wasn't rocking with me at first, you know. And so, shout out to them. I know a lot of people over there, and it's all love. But I think it's a blessing. It was a blessing in disguise, you know. Me not selling my scripts over there or getting hired to be a director over there forced me into doing my own thing. And I much rather would be doing this than anything else. So the feature film thing coming from, I also still want to state, I would love to be independent, an independent filmmaker that makes what I want to make, and at the times and the pacing that I want to make it. But my goal was to always make films and TV. So I went to school for that. And when I came across social media, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a step back, because it's not. It's a step across. It's another way of getting to where I want to go. And it took me some years to figure that out, but I did. So I said, okay, they put in sketches, and well, instead of spending months of making a short film, or many months trying to make a feature, and trying to get the funding to produce a feature or a short, let me just take this camera that I have and my equipment that I already have, and start shooting small vignettes, showing small sketches, because people are doing it anyways. Small sketches, and let's keep doing that until something happens, and something happened is a fan base. And a fan base is the most important thing to any entertainer: singer, writer, poet, author, dancer. You build a fan base, that's the most important thing, in my opinion. And because at that point, you have people who love what you do, you know, and you don't need a producer or a studio to say yes to do what you want to do. I can move right now by myself, and it took me a while to get to this point. It's a blessing that people do like what I do, and they do support. So, like I said, it's way more gratifying than making someone else's dream come true, and now I'm making my own. You know, so
It's powerful, especially to be able to do it on your own. And you
yeah.
saw what it was like. You tried to break out initially, and they weren't feeling it at first. But now that you have a bit more clout and leverage, you can do the same thing yourself. And in that space, I'm sure it's a bit of this distinction where you're wearing multiple hats, right? You're the lead person as the comic and the creator and the face of the brand. You also want to be the filmmaker, the person that can direct and put everything together. Do you feel as if people are always seeing you in that light, or do you feel like you may have to remind people, no, I'm also interested in this other aspect as well?
Oh, as far as acting, producing, directing. Okay. So one thing I would say this, I started off when I would create different things, whether it was a short film or just a piece of content. A lot of the time I was writing it, and I was directing it, and I was shooting it, and I was getting other actors to be in it and building it that way. And no one really, I would put it online. Nobody would really follow it or watch it. And maybe because it was just too soon. Then back in 2017, I decided, let me put my cell phone camera, have someone film me doing all the funny stuff I'm writing for other people. Let me do the funny stuff. And I was already an actor. I have an agent, and I've been acting since 2009. So it's not like I was just a director writer. I was an actor as well, but I didn't care when it came to my projects. I was just seeing other people play these roles, and I was working under the hat of writer director. Then it got to the point where, all right, you can't really rely on people, especially when you have no money and limited resources and limited time. So you have to start doing things yourself. And so I said, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna have to find somebody who rocks with me, who cares about what I do, and ask them to shoot me. Just hold the camera, push record, and just make sure it's steady. And I'm gonna go in front of the camera, and then I'm gonna be the funny. And that's when things start picking up. That's when things took off. So to answer your question about reminding people that, I mean, I would love to I would love to, as much as I love being in front of the camera and telling jokes and being funny and being silly, I would love to just write and direct sometimes to where it's a project that's produced by me, directed by me, but I don't have to be the lead star. I can just literally sit back and direct the actors and make something dope. So eventually I plan on getting to that. I think this year, the remainder of this year, I'm going to start putting more projects together where I'm not the focal point, but the focal point is what people come to see. At this point, it's me. So I would love to get to the point where people would love just to see my content, whether I'm in front of the camera or the main character or not. They just are interested in seeing what I put together. So that's the goal.
Right. That reminds me of something I heard recently from Quinta Brunson from Abbott Elementary. She had said when she was first pitching the show, she actually didn't even have herself as the lead in the role. And then the people that at ABC were like, we didn't buy this project without you in this. Like, you have to be in this. So it was interesting to hear her experience through that. And I think similarly with you, it would be interesting to see what she continues to do on that path. Because I do think that there's this thing where, yes, what people may most respond to is seeing the person they're most familiar with. But as the thing expands and grows, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And I think one of the ways that you've done that, and I think it continued through, is that you do have consistent series throughout your content. You have The Lesbian Homie, you have Inner Thoughts, and some of these other sketches. And I think in a lot of ways, these are the franchises that you have under your umbrella. And in thinking about that piece, do you ever think about the balance of content, whether you want to continue making shows in those series because you know how popular they are versus trying new series out and doing things? How much do you balance the content play between what you know is already proven versus testing new things out?
I've been going back and forth. I've been going, like, for example, when I first did my first big project I did, my first sketch that really did numbers and really got me some notice was Tiberius, the Hood Man. And that kind of spread fast and it was getting shared a lot. And I was like, man, this is dope. And so I did another one. I did a part 2. Then I did like an episode 3 of it and episode 4. And I kept going. I was like, all right, let me fall back and not just do this one character, this one type of piece of content. Let me do something different. So I started the I'm Coming Too. That was my second like non sequitur series. You know what I'm saying? It was just episode for episode here and there. But I was doing that. I'm Coming Too, and that really did well. Me and my homegirl Sade. Shout out to Sade. So that was a totally different room. It was still hood good, but I was a different type of character. In Tiberius, I'm this big Debo type character, and I'm Coming Too. I'm like this big guy too, because you can't hide my size. But pause. But you can. My lady is the bully. My lady is the one punking me and stuff like that. So that was like a 2 different dynamics there, and it did well. And then I moved on to, I forget the next one. I think that might have been Lesbian Homie, the next one. But then the whole crew was stupid. But I was still doing episode 1, 2, and 3 of this series, 1, 2, and 3 of that series, and I was adding on the whole crew was stupid. My Inner Thoughts, the Roommate Pays All the Bills. I kept doing, so I don't have a problem with doing something new, because I feel like if I'm blessed enough to make these go, then the next projects, the next different ideas will go too. So if I don't I'm not pressured to keep the series going because I know that works. I'm into creating new stuff and seeing how it goes. I'm not a slave to this is what works, so let me just keep doing this only. Nah, I'm gonna press the envelope. I'm gonna push the line. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna see if they like this too. And what about this? I'm gonna grab this and think of this kind of character. What if I do this? So so I don't have a problem with that. So plus I've done so much I've done the series thing to a degree. Now I want to move on to something else. I want to challenge myself to do another character or another storyline to see if people like that.
Yeah, and that follows with what you said earlier in terms of if you're only doing things for the response, you're not taking into account that some things may not take off on social media, but that doesn't mean that they're not funny. It could be the algorithm doing whatever it's doing that day. You still got to have the confidence in what you're putting out that it's good and that people are going to resonate with that.
Truth.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm confident in that. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other things too that stuck out to me is that Facebook has been a pretty big channel for you in terms of where you have had a lot of your audience on social media, where there's been a lot of the growth and attraction there. But I also know that Facebook hasn't always been the easiest platform for a lot of creators to be able to navigate, even though they have the biggest user base out of anyone. How have you been able to make the platform work for you?
Let me start by saying shout out to Facebook. Facebook has been amazing. It's been a blessing, for sure. And I agree with you. They're not the easiest to navigate through. If I had to critique them, which I would say their customer service needs to be much better. Their customer, I think, for someone like myself and other creators, uh, we should have a little bit more love. We should get a little bit more love from them, a little bit more support from Facebook, on the do's and don'ts, and more clarity. And I think that it should be more. We should be handled better. To be honest with you, as far as how do I help my channel go, if I'm being 100% honest with you, I've never strategized. I literally just I do all the work on my end and I post. I don't. And well, I will say I do have times where I do strategize in the sense I will say I'm going to post every day between 8 and 10 o'clock, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I don't post in the evening times. I post in the morning, and I'm on the West Coast. So if it's 8 o'clock here in the morning in LA, I mean it's 11 o'clock in the morning in New York. So it's still morning, and I post, and I've been doing that for years. So I don't know, and because I'm not really clear on what to do and what not to do with Facebook. It's not very clear. I just do me, and hopefully, hopefully it works. So I do have some hangups here and there, but for the most part, I've been pretty successful as far as getting my content out, and there being no real problem, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting because especially at your level, having millions of followers on the platform and through your page as well, having some type of custom service for someone at your level would make a lot of sense because I know that that's something that is existing on a lot of the other platforms. And to your point, I don't think any of these platforms have necessarily been perfect. They're always having challenges, but some of them have been more catering to others. But yeah, it's been fascinating to see. With that, what are after Facebook, which other platform would you say has been the most beneficial for you? I know where your followers are, but more from your perspective, which one have you enjoyed both from an engagement and a performance perspective?
Believe it or not, YouTube was my first platform that really no Instagram. Instagram was where I started putting my 1 minute videos on, my 15-second videos on first. 15-second videos, and then they gave us a minute. So I started doing 1 minute pieces of work, and then I started going on YouTube and then Facebook. YouTube, IG, and then Facebook. IG and Facebook at the same time because I think they're together. At least they are now. But I didn't see much. I didn't get that much love on Facebook initially. Most of my success was coming on IG, and I think maybe because it's more personal, it's closer, it's right there in your hand, and it's just a little bit more popular than Facebook and YouTube. IG is, but I started there, and then I started really focusing on YouTube first, and then Facebook started coming along strong, and so now I would say Facebook, YouTube, and then IG as far as my success. TikTok is there as well. I'm not as strong on Twitter as I should probably be, but Twitter is there. But mostly, Facebook is my biggest platform. Then it's YouTube. Then it's Then it's TikTok. Actually, then it's YouTube. Then it's Instagram. Sorry. So Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and then Instagram. Those are my four biggest platforms, and Facebook and YouTube are my biggest.
Yeah,
And
it's It's interesting because I do think that for anyone that is creating content and using platforms, there's normally going to be a few that you gravitate the most to for what your strengths are and where you think works the best for you. And I think in past interviews, you had talked about Vine and saying like, hey, there's certain people that are good with 6 seconds, but that just didn't necessarily work for what I was working with. But when IG had expanded, you had 15 and then 30 seconds and a whole minute. You were like, all right, bet this is exactly where I need to be. And I think
Right.
even Twitter to some extent with that, right? I think that Twitter probably is something that leans itself a bit more to people reacting to whatever the current thing is. And I don't necessarily look at your comedy in that type of way, right?
Right.
So I do feel like you've definitely found the places where you can perform the best and where your audience is at.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The other question that I had for you, though, was around given everything that you do with what you do on social media, what you may do on tour as well, for other people that may be looking at you and where you're at least independently, what are the rough breakdowns of where your revenue comes from in terms of from touring, from, versus other areas? And it doesn't need to be like specifics, more so from a percentage perspective, but how you run the business and where you expect things to come from.
Okay. Well, my biggest income, my biggest sources of revenue are from Facebook and YouTube. And then any given month, it would be merch and or brand deals like sponsorships. So Facebook and YouTube, depending on if I have a shirt that I'm selling or it's a shirt that people really like, or it's a hat or some type of piece of clothing that I have that people really like at that. I try to come out with something every month or something like that. So depending on the month, it could be my third revenue could be merch or it could be sponsorships, depending on if I land a deal with a brand, with a company and they want to, get this product promoted and they pay me this amount of money. So it could be brand deals, which are very important too. Like especially if a brand deal fits your brand, then it can really work. If you're creative, you can keep that relationship going for a while, for a long time. And that's the goal, is to get a working relationship with these companies and let them confide in you and you respect what they're doing and what they're willing to give and what you're willing to give as far as your expertise and your talent and stuff like that. And hopefully I'll come to an agreement and get it going for the long term. So I would say merch, then brand deals, or sometimes brand deals, then merch. But YouTube and Facebook are my biggest platforms.
Where does touring fit in that?
Touring, I haven't toured since 2019. So 2019, this is before the pandemic. That it fit in there. It was good. I had a great time. I loved the tour. My goal was to go back on tour in 2020. I was gonna go on tour every year, but pandemic hit, and 2020 was a blur. It was a down year. I caught COVID the first couple of weeks of COVID before the lockdown. I caught it before the lockdown, so I was in bad shape, and then I got better, and then it was still the city was on lock, so no one was going anywhere. Then people started touring, but at this point, I got to get back to shooting. That's another thing. It's balancing the two. Going back to that first question or the first couple of questions you asked about navigating between like comedy, stand-up comedy, and filmmaking and sketch comedy creating. It's tough when one thing about sketch comedy or social media creation, it's different from TV and movies because there's off seasons in TV and movies. You can make movies all year round, yes, but like with this pilot season, there's like especially for TV, there's off seasons. Sometimes like the city, like Hollywood, shuts down for a few months a year, right, during the holidays and whatnot. And as a social media content creator, there's no off days, really, really. A lot of times you find yourself, I'm victim to it too, and it's like racing against the algorithm. That's the problem. When you don't have a network deal where you're getting paid this amount of money to create this, and then everything's set in stone, you're good, come to work, do your work. When the season is wrapped, you go do something else. You go to another project or you go on vacation. With social media content creation, you have to create your own vacation. And it's tough. Because then you look at your numbers, you look at your pages, and your pages aren't really going because you're not putting content up because you're taking a break. It's hard to take a break. That's one of the biggest challenges I think any social media creator can feel and relate to. Like, yeah, that's something that I think everybody can relate to. Man, the constant need or want or pressure to keep creating.
Definitely.
Social media never gets tired of you. I mean, they might get tired of you, but they'll never be like, hey, that's enough. They want more.
Right.
This sketch is funny. What's next?
Yep.
With a TV show, you got 13 episodes, 10 episodes, and then you got to wait for the all season for them to reshoot some stuff and then get back to showing you season 2, season 3, season 4 with social media content. Bigg Jah, that was funny, hilarious. When's the next sketch coming? When's the next lesbian homie? When's the next roommate pays all the bills? When's the next, Tiberius? It never slows down.
It's a grind. It is. I can speak to that myself. And the algorithms don't know you want to take PTO, right? They're not gonna be they're not gonna be favorable to you when you come back. And that's what can make it so tough with it. And I'm sure for you, that's probably a lot of the thought behind wanting to eventually shift to being less the main person in front of the camera and doing more behind the camera, because then that just frees up a bit more of your time to still be able to leverage what you created, but not need to be as on demand.
Right. I don't mind it. I love acting. I love creating. I love being in front of the camera. But at the same time, I feel like I could be even more effective. I just love, I see a lot of talent around me that might not get the recognition unless they're in my video. It's my video. I create a storyline and I build and I pull them into the storyline, and then I try to showcase them and try to show how talented he or she is, and show that, so hopefully they can build their own following off of it or continue building their following. A lot of them already have a following, but they want to increase it. So a lot of times I have to take them and put them in my video for them to get as much notice as they want to get. As opposed to, these people are so talented, I would just love just to work with them. I don't have to necessarily have them in my video. I can just, if they have an idea that they want to do, I wouldn't mind producing it. I would love to eventually, my goal is also to create my own films and in my own TV shows, but also produce content for other strong creators, other strong actors and actresses that might not be directors. I see a lot of talented people that put content out, and I'm like, I don't like it because I'm very particular about how to convey a story, how to perform dialogue, how to really put a dope, strong scene together and a series of strings together, a series of scenes together to make a story, to make a short film, to make a TV show episode. And I see a lot of funny, talented people that can act, that can do these things, but they're not directors, so it kind of falls flat. I would love to build some kind of conglomerate to where it's me along with other directors that have access to these strong actors that can help tell their stories. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you definitely have the network and the access to these people, and being able to create that platform makes a lot of sense. And what it makes me think of is just how people are structuring what their team or what their group of people look like. And I'd be curious to hear what that is like on your end. What does your team look like? How many people are working with you on a regular basis to put out your content, to run the business? And what are some of those roles that people currently have with where you are right now?
Okay. So I can tell you how I started. I started by myself in my room on my phone, my iPad, and I had cameras. I had cameras equipment because I was a DP for not a professional. I mean, I was a professional DP, but I wasn't for Hollywood. But I was a DP. I was directing music videos and being hired to shoot weddings, music videos, short films, sketches. I was doing all those things by myself. I had a truck full of equipment, a lot of DIY stuff. And then when I decided to do stuff for myself, like the Bigg Jah brand, I'm pushing Bigg Jah. The first guy I had was my boy Ken Edwin. I ran into Ken. Ken is another comedian, another actor and writer. And I've known him for years, but I didn't know that he did content. So I ran into him about 5 years ago. I've known him for about 8. And then we didn't become real friends until 5 years ago. And I saw that he created too, and his stuff was dope. It was super, super creative. I was in awe when I first saw it. And I was like, man, we need to work. And he come to find out he's just as selfless as I am. Anytime I needed someone to shoot, he was there to shoot. If I needed to use his house, I can come to his house and shoot at his house. If I needed to go to another location, he'd be there with his camera and my camera, and we're putting them together, and he's working. He was the first guy that really supported me in this as far as shooting. But even before that, when I was just a stand-up comedian, and I just got my first camera, and I was trying to start shooting for other comedians, my boy Craig Smith. Craig is like the first guy that really supported me, had my back, and it was a team. It was a team of two, me and him. Whether I was writing something, directing it, and he was an actor, or whether or not he was trying to network and tell people that we can shoot your projects. And me and him first started doing like comedy specials, like short comedy specials. We would have like 5, 6 comics at a time. They would come to a comedy show and we would film them doing their sets. And we did that, I'm talking about almost 10 years ago. So we've been doing this for a long time. And it kind of evolved into me doing the Bigg Jah stuff and then building adding to the team. So Ken, my boy Craig, my boy Troy. I ran into Troy working at a sketch house. We were all creating at this place called the Sketch House. And he and I were the only ones that actually were doing sketches on cameras, not just cell phones. Everyone else was doing cell phones. He and I were shooting on cameras, and we needed somebody to shoot because we had cameras, but we didn't have anyone to shoot for us because no one knew how to shoot cameras. They were all always on their phones. And so we decided you shoot for me, I'll shoot for you. And that's how we built that bond. So me, Troy, Craig, Ken, Minx. So I met a lot of these guys doing the work as sketches, as sketch artists. And we just clicked and we just decided, okay, when it's a group of us now, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 of us. When it's time for me to shoot, we got one of us gonna shoot for you. When it's time for me to shoot, one of y'all got to shoot for me. And that's how the team formed. And that's when we started growing. I'm shooting every day. I'm shooting a couple sketches a day. I'm dropping 2 or 3 times a week. And my platform's starting to grow because now I'm flooding the followers. I'm flooding the supporters that are just, if they love this, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. So I was coming out with so many different pieces of content, so many different stories because I had guys that would come bring lights. They were inexpensive. They were the cheapest lights you can get, but they were there. And none of us really had any real money, but we had time and we had loyalty. And that's really the only reason why I got to where I'm at right now. Honestly speaking, is that the team and it wasn't like I had a professional casting director or a professional DP or a gaffer. I just had the homies. And we were just supporting each other, shooting all of our sketches together. And we was putting out stuff. And then it got to the point where we were all making okay money. We were starting to make a little income from it. And we used to meet every Sunday. Every Sunday we used to meet. And then we got to the point where we were saying we got to find our individual teams. As a team, we had to branch out and get our own shooters, our own editors, our own this, that, and the other. So we don't have to be bogged down weekly just doing work for each other. You know what I'm saying? So I'll shoot their stuff, his stuff today, his stuff tomorrow. Somebody will shoot my stuff on Wednesday, and then I'm shooting their stuff on Thursday, and vice versa. And now a week we're all working, we're grinding, but we need time to do something else too. You know, and so now I had to regroup my team. I had to rebuild my team. These guys are still around. They're still my brothers. They was at the house yesterday, but I had to find my own guy that's going to shoot for me, as opposed to always relying on them because now they got to be there. But we're all busy. We all got our own things. We've built our platforms. We have our fan bases. We have our algorithm to race against. You know what I'm saying? So instead of having him take the whole day to film my stuff, he needs to film his stuff. And now we need more than one day each. We need 2, 3, 4 days each for the week. You know what I'm saying? So now to answer your question, after giving you that quick backstory or that long backstory, my team now is smaller. My conglomerate of friends that I create with, they're still here. It's about 5 of us. The whole crew of stupid is the show that I was doing. I was doing a live show November, October, November, December of last year. I did a monthly in Inglewood, California. I did a live show where I would show sketches and we would do stand-up comedy in between the sketches. And it's about 5 of us. So that's the crew. The whole crew. So that's the crew. But as far as me shooting now, I have a DP and it's really just me and another guy. Me and my boy Anthony. He was also a director. But once again, you run across people who are selfless and just loyal to the cause. And he's a director first, a writer director first that is strong with the camera and strong with lighting and strong with editing. And he does a lot of those things for me. He does basically sometimes it's like, for example, we just finished shooting the second season of Let's Me Homie, and he helped me write that. He co-wrote it with me. He co-wrote it with me. He DP'd the whole season, and he's editing the whole season. So he's really a person that is doing 4 or 5 guys' jobs. You know what I'm saying? All in one, and it's a blessing to me. I met him a few years ago. He loves my content, and we met basically him as a fan of the content. Come to find out, he had this wealth of knowledge of filmmaking, and we became a team. So he and I together created this whole season 2 of Lesbian Homie, and it's probably the best thing I've ever done. Produced, written, and he has a lot to do with it. He's an inspirational dude, and I'm all about organic relationships, and our relationship is very organic. Even though he came to LA and he wanted to meet me because he wanted to let me know what he can do. And once we met, it clicked. We had the same type of style. So my team is small still. My goal is to branch out and delegate some of those roles that he does to other people. But to be honest with you, I'm particular. I have a certain style, a hood good style, and how I edit, how I write. It's hard for me to like have other people write for me. All right, other people edit my stuff, but I don't have time to do all of this stuff. I've written over 400 sketches. You know what I'm saying? So it gets to the point where I got to delegate some things, so I can't be doing everything myself. My team is small, but I know over the years I've worked on bigger projects, and I've hired. I do have access to other people because, like I said, I came in this game doing directing and DP work, so I know a lot of other DPs that have camera gear and have experience. So when it comes time for me to shoot my actual film, I can have a casting director, wardrobe, DP, camera assistants, gaff and crew. But I know I have enough resources and Rolodex of people I can contact when I need to do a full production.
It's impressive what you've been able to do with the small team. I mean, outside in, someone could look and see like, oh, I'm sure he has a whole crew of people that are working with this. But like you said, you have people that are wearing multiple hats. They're shipping in here and there to do things. And that's ultimately how you build. And I think you ultimately do get to the place where things can continue to expand, but there's also no reason to make things bigger than they need to. Part of the beauty is you being able to be nimble and having a team that appears bigger than it is. I feel like that's the
Yeah.
most powerful position to be in. And for you with that, what's on deck for you for the next few years? Now that things are opening back up, now that the pandemic is starting to subside, what do you see for the next couple of years? What are you most excited about? I know you want to get more behind the camera, but is there any specific projects or anything else that we should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, yes, sir. I don't know when because it's still being written, but I'm going to do a film wrapped around the character Tiberius. I'm doing a Tiberius film, and I'm excited about that. I think that's going to be a big thing. I hopefully I haven't brought Tiberius out in a long time, and maybe I'm praying that the supporters, fans, supporters, I call them supporters most likely, usually will still like the idea of me coming out with a movie for Tiberius. So um, I audition still. I have an agent. I still audition for other roles, and I'm open to do other projects for other companies, other studios. But as far as my stuff, either one of the two are going to happen. I'm either going to shoot the film this year or go on tour this year. And if I don't shoot this film this year, and I still do go on tour, the film is within the next year. The film will be making the film.
That's
So,
exciting.
and that's whether, and I can do it independently. Like I said, I'm at the point now where it's a blessing to be able to say I can just do this myself. I know how to create film. Um, just do it myself, and I have enough people around me, good people who are good at what they do to make a dope film.
That's exciting,
So
man.
that's
Good
that's the
stuff. Good
goal.
stuff. Well, hey,
Mhm.
Bigg Jah, this has been great. Before we let you go, though, where should the Trapital audience follow you to keep posted with what you're doing and everything that you got coming up?
You can follow me everywhere on Bigg Jah, at Bigg Jah, Bigg, two G's. So it's Biggjah. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I be on TikTok doing all kind of stuff. I be dancing around. No, I don't be doing too much, but I do a little bit. But I'm on all platforms at Bigg Jah. Boom. Website, biggjah.com. That's two G's, Biggjah.com. The Hood Good Store. Go get your merch. If you want to support, it's all love. If you don't, it's love anyways. But go to thehoodgoodstore.com. That's TheHehoodGoodstore.com. That's thehoodgoodstore.com. You can get almost most of the stuff I wear in my sketches. It's my own company, it's my own brand, and I sell it myself. So much love to y'all. If you got any more questions, I got answers.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Ja, appreciate you coming on.
Brother Dan, thank you so much, bro.